What up, fellow agents? PurePrime here. Look at those talent, guys. We're getting unique talents. Are you ready? Let's go. The new and updated talent, guys. Every talent will be unique. And that means that they no longer stack anymore. So that could be a problem with hard hitting, getting that DTE high up on your build. But there are a lot of good buffs, guys. And of course, I'm gonna show it to you. And like you see, guys, these are all the normal talents and their buffs. So critical will get a 20% critical hit damage instead of that 15%. Surgical will get a 15% critical hit chance instead of 10%. Devastating will get a 10% weapon damage instead of 5%. Empowered will get 20% skill power instead of 10%. Hard hitting will get 25% DTE, damage to elites, instead of 10%. Vital will get buffed up to 25% instead of 20%. Hardened will get 20% and is now 10%. And on the PTS, they still stack. So I don't know if they're gonna change it or we can still stack armor. But we have to see what happens after they release the next update. Then we have Insulated that will give you 30% hazard protection instead of 10. So that's a nice buff. Then we get that 30% health on kill instead of 10. That self-adjusting 30% armor regeneration instead of 20. Then we got destructive 40% explosive damage instead of 20. And then we got that 50% skill duration instead of 20. So that's a huge buff. That's a huge buff. And they buffed and nerfed the active talents as well. So let's start with On the Ropes. On the left side you will see what it's now for PvE and what it is for PvP on the right side. So On the Ropes for PvE, weapon damage is increased by 15% instead of 25%, while all skills are on cooldown. On the PvP side of things, they're gonna change it to 10% instead of 25%. So we're losing another 5% on the Ropes at PvP, so forget about that 3.11.7 build, guys. After that we got Creeping Death, and PvE, the status effect spread to the nearest enemy within 25 meters instead of 10. Can occur every 5 seconds, and that was 15. So this is a nice buff. For PvP, the status effect spread the nearest enemy within 10 meters and can occur every 5 seconds instead of 15. Then we're coming to Spotter. Spotter for PvE, 15% weapon damage to pulsed enemies, and it was 20% before. For the PvP, it's gonna go to 10. So you're losing another 5% for Spotter. Then we're coming to the knee pads, and for PvE, once per 30 seconds shoot an enemy in the legs, applied bleed to them for 10 seconds. And the knee pads on the PvP side of things, once per 30 seconds shooting an enemy in the legs applies bleed to them for 5 seconds. So 5 seconds for PvP and 10 seconds for PvE. Then we got tech support. For the PvE, nothing has changed. And for the PvP side of things, kills by active skills grant 50% skill damage for 15 seconds. And it was 25% skill damage and 10 seconds. So this is a very nice boost and a very nice buff. Okay, then we're going to Unbreakable. PvE will not change anything, and another nerf in PvP. It will go down to 20% of the max armor is repaired when your armor is depleted instead of the 25%. So now it's 50% difference between PvE and PvP. That's insane. But let's get over to the next talents, guys. The Bloodsucker for PvE has not changed. And for PvP, depleting an enemy's armor adds a stack of 15% bonus armor for 5 seconds, and the max stack is 2. And it was 20% before, and we got a max stack of 5 instead of that 2. So this Bloodsucker would be a little bit less OP in PvP, I think. Then we got Terminate for PvE, nothing has changed. And Terminate in PvP, depleting an enemy's armor grants 50% skill damage for 30 seconds instead of 35% skill damage for 15 seconds. So this is a very nice boost for the PvP side of things. If you want to rock, I don't know, let's say an attack drone with those nice new talents. I don't know, I'm gonna try it. Then we got Reassigned for PvE, has unchanged, and Reassigned on PvP. Killing a status effect enemy adds 3 rounds of random special ammo into your sidearm. It can occur every 30 seconds. And it was 45 seconds. And then for the last active talent we got Calculated. For PvE, nothing has changed. And for the PvP, kills from cover reduce skill cooldown by 20% instead of 10%. So they're focusing on the skills within the PvP. I love that, man. I think I have a very nice build ready for that. But let's get over to the exotic, guys, because the exotics has changed as well. They changed a lot of things. Let's see. The Chatterbox. Every shot landed grants 1% rate of fire to a max of 60%. This resets on reload. And there is nothing changing right there. The second one, kills with this weapon refill 75% of its magazine and grants a buff of 10 seconds. And that was 20% before. So we're getting a huge buff in our refilling our magazine. And then while the buff is active, every shot landed increased the magazine capacity by 3 to a max of 60. Killing a target consumes the buff to fully refill the increased magazine. And it was before just 1. So we get 2 bullets more. That's nice. We're getting quicker to that 60. Yeah, I'm loving that. Especially when the SMGs are getting a little bit of buff. So I'm thinking about getting that Chatterbox again. Well, we will see. Then for the sweet dreams, guys. Landing a melee attack on an enemy after swapping this weapon grants 60% bonus armor and applies the Sandman debuff. PvP bonus armor remains at 35. So we're getting a 60% bonus armor instead of 35%. So that's a 25% raise. That's very nice. While equipped, dodging reloads 25% of your current weapon's magazine. And guys, they added something. If drawn, dodging grants 50% weapon damage for 2 seconds. So that's a very nice addition. You can just run up to somebody and then use a dodge. You got 2 seconds to pump him full of lead with your shotgun with a 50% buff. I don't know, I never play around with shotguns. They're a little bit too weak at this point. We have to see what they will bring in the wave 3. Then we got the Pestilence, guys. After hitting the same enemy 10 times, that enemy is inflicted with the Plague of the Outcast for 10 seconds. So nothing has changed there. Whenever an enemy with the Plague of the Outcast is killed, they leave a toxic cloud for 10 seconds that deals 1200% weapon damage per second to anyone inside and inflicts them with Pestilence. The PvP version remains at 500%. But 1200% weapon damage, guys. That's insane. That's an 800% boost on that Pestilence. That's insane. Whenever an enemy with Pestilence would be downed, they are instead instantly killed. Pestilence is removed if the enemy is repaired to full armor. And then for the Merciless guys, the RPM has increased from 260 to 400. And this weapon is equipped with a binary trigger that fires on trigger, pull and release. And there's nothing changed there, only the RPM has a little bit boosted up. Then for the second talent, pulling the trigger fires primer rounds that stay embedded in an enemy. Releasing the trigger fires detonator rounds that detonate all primers enemy it hits. And then each primer detonate gains 100% damage per primer. PvP version will still remain at 75%. Only one enemy can have primers, and at most 5 primers can be embedded. So we're getting a buff of 25% with that detonation. I think that's a good buff. They needed it, but still I don't think it's a worthy weapon, so to say. And let's get over to the last two guys. And of course, there it is, the Eagle Bearer. And like everybody know, it has a reduced damage of 15%. Because yeah, the whole internet exploded. The whole community exploded. The accuracy increased as you continuously fire up to 100%. And that's still the same. But then guys, we have headshots grant 100% reload speed and 50% damage and the tenacity buff for 10 seconds. So we're getting a nerf from 15% on the base damage, but we're getting a buff of 15% damage on one of the talents. The PvP version remains at 35%. The strength of the tenacity is increased by 1% for body shots and 5% for headshots. And 40 till 80% of the damage taken is delayed until the buff expires. And that was 20 till 80%. So that's a change as well. All the total delayed damage is reduced for each enemy killed with the buff active. Up to 100% with 3 kills. And it was 100% to 5 kills. So they changed a lot. This answers it. They removed 15% base damage, but in PvE we still get that 15% damage back because it's 50 instead of 35 right now. I think they only did this to edit the talents on the EB, so it won't be that powerful in PvP, but still in PvE should be the same. And our last weapon is of course the Diamondback. The Diamondback randomly marks an enemy. Hitting that enemy consumes the mark, guaranteeing a critical hit with 20% total damage. A new random target is marked afterwards and whenever you reload. So nothing changed right there. After hitting 5 marked targets, gain 50% reload speed, 20% total damage, and all shots fired are guaranteed critical hits for 10 seconds, and it was 15 seconds. While drawn, each time a round is loaded, gain 20% bonus armor for 3 seconds, and it was 15% before. And I know there's a problem with the Diamondback in getting more armor, and this even makes it worse. I hope they fixing it, the problem with the Diamondback. After that, Diamondback has a new PvP functionality. Headshot against players are guaranteed to critical hit and provide a stack of deep fangs. Non-player enemies such as NPCs and player skills will still be marked randomly by the Diamondback and also provide stacks when hit. So this is a very nice buff for the PvP on the Diamondback. But yeah guys, that is pretty much it. I'm loving most of the additions, but I don't know if it's a good addition to go for perfect talents. So there are perfect talents, there's a perfect devastating for example, and that gives you 15% weapon damage. If we have perfect talents from everything, we're just gonna rock those talents. Only those talents. We can stack it up. In my opinion, the weapon damage from 15% will go on my holster, because that's the powerful thing to do. Then we have a way to get spotter and hard hitting on a mask. So that's a very nice addition. There are a lot of additions that give us the opportunity to widen the spectrum of builds. So more diversity. But now the diversity goes down again because we have unique talents and can't stack anymore. I don't really know what to think about it. And remember guys, this is still the PTS and there are changing a lot constantly. I think all those talents will be the same, but maybe, hopefully, they're gonna think about the unique talents again. But yeah guys, that's my opinion. Please let me know what you think about it. And that was it for today. Thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to smash that like button and hit that subscribers button. And of course the notification bell. PurePrime out.